Welcome to Handcrafted by GR Broussard. I'm Greg Broussard, and today we're going to paint this RCA Victor radio. I did an image AI search on this, and it says it's 1940s or 50s. We're also going to replace this fabric. And the customer also wants me to remove the turntable in here and put a shelf on the inside. To get to this last screw, I've got to take this speaker out, and I've already taken most of the screws, well, all of them except for this one. I've got to take the speaker out to get to that screw. The speaker's got to come off anyway because I have to replace this fabric. All right. These are so, the slots in them are so hard to get out. These hinges are really loose. The pins are kind of loose on here, and this drawer started to rack a little bit, just a tiny bit, and it's scratching right down in here. When you open and close it, it's hitting on the bottom. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come with a really sharp plane, and I'm just going to plane this down just a little bit. So when I put it together, I won't forget. So this will be fixed now before we paint it. I'm going to come and plane this area down, and my favorite number 4 style plane, believe it or not, is a Stanley Defiance plane. And Defiance plane was made by Stanley 1929 to I believe 1962. They made this style of Defiance plane, and this was made actually for someone who couldn't afford the better Stanleys. This is a Stanley Sweetheart. This is an older Stanley after 1933. After 1962, Stanley started making the Handyman plane, which is this one here. But this, I like this the best. It seems to cut better than all the other number 4s. I have got more number 4s than that, but it cuts the best. So I'm going to go ahead and plane this down with my old Stanley Defiance. I'll focus on this area here. Just barely take a nice little light shaving off there. A little bit more. Can still see little scratches marks here. Okay. That should be good enough. That should solve that scratching problem. I'm going to rough up the surface. I'm coming through with 220. And don't forget, you can use these little eraser things, which are awesome. You can clean your sandpaper up with it. And kind of make it, get all the stuff back off of it, and you can keep using the same piece. The customer wants to keep this RCA on there. So I'm going to just keep that piece of tape on there as a friendly reminder to myself not to sand that off. I've got to get into this area here and get that shellac off, and I think just roughing it up isn't going to be enough. So what I've done is I've taken the iron or the cutter out of this molding plane, and that curvature just fits in there. So I've taken the iron out, and I'm coming in with the iron and using the back of it, and I'm scraping the shellac off with the curvature of this old molding plane. And I'll come back with sandpaper once this is scraped off and then sand it smooth. So we'll just have to take our time and just come in here and do it this way. Through the years, I've made a lot of different profiles for little sanding blocks, and now I can just go in my inventory and pull what I need. And I have a little curvature on this one, and what I'm going to do is put that on my paper. This is 250 paper, and then I'll sand in here on that curvature, and then I'll come back with the one that's an angle, and I will get the corner down there, inside there, and I'll turn it, and I'll get this little ridge right here with that angle. And I'll work myself all the way down doing this. There's this little spot here that I've got to fill in. I'm going to do this with epoxy wood filler. I'm just going to come back with some denatured alcohol on a paper towel and clean it. I'm going to use JB Weld, the quick wood, to fix this, and it's just a two-part deal. You just cut it to how much material you need, and then you mix it together, kind of knead it together, and oops, and then you put it on the part that needs to be repaired. And I'm going to do this pretty quick. I'm going to get my stuff ready here. So I'm just going to knead it. It actually starts to film a little bit warm. And then I'm going to put it in my hole. Now I've drilled little tiny holes in there, so when I put this stuff on, I can cram it in that hole. And I have these little dental tools that are great for doing stuff like this. And the reason why I drilled holes in there is so I can have a little bit more hold when it goes in. So I'm just cramming it in the holes right now. There we go. I'll shape it. Before this stuff dries, I always cut it with a razor blade. It's a lot easier if you get rid of most of the waste before it sets up, because the stuff gets really super hard. So I'll just trim it, and makes life easier when I have to shape it. While that epoxy dries, I'm working myself around the cabinet here, and I'm card scraping this, and I'm just like, well, I'll just get rid of the shellac. And I started noticing this brown color coming from underneath that grain. Let's see if I can get a sharp edge on this. I'm gonna have to resharpen this thing. Find one. There we go. See that brown right there? I actually think this is a sticker. From what I know, 1940s and 1950s, I think this was made. I didn't know they had that's, you know, stickers like that. Look, it's a side grain. This is the end grain over here. So they just put a sticker, it looks like, on the front of this. I was like, well, I'm just going to get rid of the shellac and, you know, get sandpaper and you know, rough it up some so I can paint it. But no, I have to take this off because I don't know if paint will stick to this. I'm sure it will, but I don't know how long it will stay stuck to it. So I'm going to very carefully just card scrape all this stuff off and expose the actual real wood, so I know for sure paint will adhere to it for the customer. It's been overnight. I've let this dry, and it should be perfect to clean up. Use my block plane to get right in here to level it. All right, let's sand that right now. Can't even feel the transition. So that's a good repair. When we paint that, we won't even know that happened. So we fix this little edge right here. Looks good. I need to put a shelf here, and I need to put a shelf right in the middle, right here. So this is the shelving material, and there's nothing wrong with this material. It's pine. It's perfectly flat. It's glued together. It's a perfectly good processed piece of wood for this, and we get to stay in budget using this board. So I've got to cut this shelf to fit one here and then one here, and I got to cut a profile on the front of the shelf to match this. I think that'll look good on that. This just came off the table saw, and I'm going to join it with my Stanley number 8. This is this model is like probably 1919 to 1923-ish, kind of in that time frame. I'm going to get rid of the saw marks, and we just need 1 or 2 passes for that. And I'm going to come back in with my Stanley 55. I've already got this set up. It's easier to cut the whole thing like this first and then go back and cut it in links. And I'm going to come in and put grooves in it to match the front of the cabinet. We'll just use a 55 for that. We have to turn the board around come in from the other direction. Make that bead on the front. Now on the original piece, this part is rounded. So I'm going to come in here and sand a nice little round inside these grooves to make it perfectly match the original. I'm getting my tool, my sanding block, and I'm rotating it. I'm turning it to create that round profile, turning it the other way, and do each one of these until I get, till it matches, till it looks like the other one. And I'll come back and slightly break the edge. I'll do this all the way down the board. You can see that what the profile looks like, it matches this other one, right? So now we have to cut this shelf to the length that we need it. I've already cut the depth of the board. Now I've got to cut the length of the board, and I did a little story stick to make sure that I get everything set up right. And it's a little bit bigger in the back than it is the front. So we're going to take this to the table saw and then cut this portion here, and this should drop in. I may have to trim it up with the plane to make it fit perfect. This is my story stick, and it fits just right in there without hitting the teeth. So I'll have a little bit of play, and I can plane it down if I have to. I'm gonna have to do a plunge cut on this because my table isn't big enough. And I always cut, if I cut a profile, I always cut the profile side first because the teeth won't tear that out. It'll tear out the back of the shelf if there's any tear out. Perfect. Now we have our cool little profile. It goes all the way across just like the original. And now we'll cut the shelf that goes in here the exactly same way. Have the second shelf in, and I'm cutting blocks just to see what's attractive in here. And I think that with this little block with the round on here, can fit right in here. That can support the front. This is just a story stick kind of thing so I can keep my measurements right. And then I'll get two angle blocks, like a triangle. I'll put them in the corners. Right here, there's a little gap underneath here. So I'm going to take care of this gap on the shooting board. It looks like there was some stuff underneath here, right here. I got that out, but still there's a gap. So I'm going to take care of that gap on the shooting board. So I got some old veneer and I put it there. And then when I shoot this, it's going to shoot it at the right angle. I've tested it on my test piece here and it's a perfect angle for it. So I just need to take just a tiny bit of this off to compensate for that. All right, that should be good right there. See how that fits. Yeah, now when I put this back, there's no gap. It fits perfectly all the way around. So that looks good. All right, so now we have to attach all the brackets to the case. I decided not to put an angle bracket on the inside. It's going to interfere with putting in and out the shelf. I'm going to make this removable, so it'll go in and it'll drop down like this. And I made it a little bit loose because I need the thickness of the paint all the way around this thing on the inside and the thickness of the paint on the edges. So when you drop it in, it's not real super tight and we don't damage the inside of the case putting it in and out when there's paint on it. This is just water. I'm just going to come and clean off the areas that I sanded where there's no dust. I'm just adding a little bit of glue just in case it has to be taken off in the future by the customer for any reason. It's not going to be super glued on there, you know, like 10,000 pounds of glue. And I have to affix it to this side over here with glue because of the material that this is made out of right here. And this will work. And the other side, I can brad nail it in there. And those are just clamps so it can squish the glue on there and hold it for me. I've got to get this knob back on, and the issue is that it's hitting the front case right here, and I've looked in the back and I cannot see the screws to move the radio around, but I'm gonna have to take some wood out right here, so I'm gonna pry it a little bit in the back to move this over so I can get a tool in there to carve this just a little bit so I can get the knob on. I just need a little bit of room, and I can pry this radio just a little bit. And this wood, I measured it, should fit right there and hold it for me. So I should be able to get to it from there. That gave me a little bit of room. So the knob does almost go on. And it looks like the little springy thing came out from the inside of this. But I'll work on this. I'll start carving this down. So I'll have a little bit more room for the knob to fit all the way on there. Got it to fit. The problem is the knob, it looks like it's wore out. I thought the little clippy thing was gone, but these don't have it. I took the old one off and one of the other ones off, and this fits on there loose too. So I shimmed it, just a little shaving of wood, and then I put it back on, and it fits good with the shim in it. So we can leave it like that. I'll just tell her that there's a shim in that one. But that works. That looks like it's on there. I came back and I filled these areas in when I hit that with a brad nail, and I'm just using this Minwax wood filler. This is really good stuff. I mean, for the tiny stuff, it's really good. I normally use the Timbermate, which I like this better. However, this matched the color of the wood better, so just come back with 220 with an orbital, and I'm gonna sand that down. The customer wants to save the this logo here, the RCA Victor, and I'm going to come out this way and this way as far as it is this way. So I'm just going to measure that, and then we'll take it down. We'll give it a little bit of extra room just in case. We'll go like right there. Okay, seeing how this is a sticker, I'm going to cut the sticker and then get rid of the stuff that's left over, and it'll be, the logo will be boxed in. No, my hand's in the way. There, now we can take this part off. I get my card scraper and drop the burr on the scraper into my razor mark and pull it back and see if I can keep a straight line. Got a sharp edge on this. There it goes. There we go. Now we got a defined shape here. We'll do the other side. Drop my burr into the line and pull. There we go. Now we've got that isolated. I've got to do the same thing with this logo, and what I did is just taped it off and then sanded around it to give me you know, a safe space to work with. And that's the original logo, and we're going to again isolate this with a little original border around it. So I'm going to go the thickness of this little ruler, and we'll get our razor and we'll cut that. We'll use this, the side of it, as a reference, and then I'll cut it. The card scraper is a little bit challenging to get in here because it's so wide, so I'm going to get my old chisel here and put it in my razor line and just pull back. And I'll card scrape it this way to my line, just with the chisel, and that'll get us a clean line there all the way around our logo. I need to tighten these hinges up, so we'll come and tighten them just a little bit. Let's see, that's a lot better. Okay, we'll just tighten all of them.
All right, so we are going to go ahead and start priming these two doors. These are the doors that are going to go on the front of the cabinet. This one is a shelf that is going to go inside the cabinet. I've already done that one. I'm using this primer that I've used in the past. It's worked really well for some other cabinets I've done. It's real runny, but it seems to cover really well, and it does not require that the wood be previously sanded, but we went ahead and did that. We're going to go ahead and prime just to be extra thorough and to make sure that the paint that we are putting on for the final coat sticks really well and lasts a really long time. So I'm hoping that all of this will provide a really great product for the customer, and they'll be really happy with the end result. We're not going to be touching this brown part here. We're going to leave that in its original state. But everything else we're going to be priming so that we can later paint it with a darker green color. Alrighty, so now we are painting the green color that the customer has selected. She chose a bare oil-based enamel. We've got this green color. I've painted this shelf here. It definitely is going to require 2 coats, just because it goes on, but it gets a little streaky, just because of the primer behind it. So I'm going to definitely require 2 coats, but I think that was what I had planned on doing anyway, so no biggie. So with any type of paint, to make it look really pretty, you want to just try to stick with as long of strokes as possible. And you're going to go back and forth many, many, many times. You're going to get this section to look pretty, and then you're going to move a little lower, but you're going to end up stroking back through what you've already painted just to get the coverage just right. So it's very time consuming. This is not something you want to rush, because it will not turn out well. So if you're in a hurry, just don't sit down to do the project at that moment. Do it when you have some time, in order to be able to go back and re-stroke through the areas, because that is when you're going to get the best effect. So as you can see, I'm going through, but it gets a little streaky, like I said, so that's why I'm going to have to do a second coat. And then, of course, always go back and rub the sides, because you don't want any drips on those sides to create trouble later. Okay, this green color is going to go on, and it's going to take a while, but just be patient, and it's going to turn out really pretty, I think. As you're painting, just make sure that you stick with one direction. If you're going to go up or down, or if you're going to go to the left and right, just always stick with that for the project, and that way the light will catch the color just right, and you won't have things looking kind of off. So just stick with either up or down, up and down, or right or left. Okay, so first coat is on, and coverage is fairly good. In some areas there's a little bit of, streakiness, but for the most part, I think the top looks great. So the second coat is going to be wonderful. But so far, first coat, good.
We're going to use the 3M Super 77 spray adhesive to attach the cloth to the backboard. Just where I think you're going to get it in, and then it's going to be kind of sticky. Why don't you work it down this way a little bit, because that's got to be tight. So I've taped the border off, and this is going to be a transition between the green color and this logo. And I'm just going to come back with some black gloss Krylon paint. And I'm going to use this rattle can, the spray can, and I'm going to come in here and paint this. First, I need to get this paint, and I need to spray it onto a paper plate so I can dip my brush in it and then paint all around this. And I'm going to do the same thing on the front of the cabinet. To get the paint out of the can, I just use a paper plate, and I just spray paint onto it, and I'll dip my brush into that right there. Now I can just use the paint that I just sprayed, and I can paint my border on here, just like this. Cabinet came out really awesome. Kind of crunch time last night, but we got it done for delivery today. Fabric came out really beautiful. Hardware's all shined up. The logos are framed out. Cabinet's in there with the original profile. Looks really good. Time for delivery. Got a phone call.
You get paint all the way up to your elbow.
Oh shoot, that's not gonna work. Stanley number 8. It's not ready yet. I'm not ready. I don't even have the thing put together. There's this little, oh shoot. It's 1940s to 50s.